Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 63 for September 8th, 2017. Hey everyone, Daniel Rubino here, joined again by Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast, where we cover all things Microsoft, Windows, and PC related. We are back after taking a week off because Mr. Zach was on holiday, as they like to call it.
I was.
Over his side of the pond. I'm unfamiliar with this concept of taking a vacation. I should look into it at some point. I was going to go down to the Caribbean, but unfortunately, those people down there are getting destroyed by multiple hurricanes.
Yeah.
It's a real shame. Our thoughts are with those people down there. I can't imagine some of those places apparently have 90% damage. Is absolutely insane. Luckily, we are untouched here, but our thoughts go out to those people as well as in Texas. So on that exciting note, as the world is falling apart, let's talk about Windows. We're going to be doing a little bit of catch up from last week too, which was IFA in Berlin, where we had members of our team there. And we're going to as well go through this week's news. Zach, quickly, how are you doing? How was your vacation? Are you rested and refreshed? You always seem so low energy, right? Oh wait, no, that's Jez. I'm talking about.
That's not me. I'm pretty good. Yeah. So unfortunately, my holiday was sort of ruined by the weather. I had pretty bad weather for quite a bit of it, but there was a few nice days. I am very relaxed, and I'm back to report on all the news.
Where did you go?
I went to Spain. I went to Alicante and
nice.
Chilled out there for a week. I needed it. It had been like 3 years since I'd been on a holiday, so vacation.
I've only been to Spain for Barcelona for Mobile World Congress, which is not the time to go visit Spain. It's because there's 50,000 other people literally there who are not normally there with you.
And it's
My
hot.
dream, though, is I want to go to Catalonia. I was a big historical fan of the Spanish Civil War, and there was a large anarchist history there with the CNT-FAI, which is their anarcho-syndicalist unions. I'm just throwing out all sorts of cool political stuff here. But anyways, there's a lot of history there that I want to just go kind of check out someday. If you want to look up CNT-FAI, go ahead. It's really interesting stuff. I never learned about the Spanish Civil War growing up. Even in college, I didn't learn much about it. I was a poli-sci major. But it's just really interesting. It's a fascinating country. So maybe someday I'll actually get there. But let's talk about Microsoft. Mixed reality. This was a big announcement last week. I had the privilege of trying out the new mixed reality experience, which is coming hopefully in a couple of weeks to all Windows 10 devices, including those on Insider. So I was treated to a newer version that's not even in the public builds for Fast, Ring, or Skip Ahead. And Microsoft announced some changes to the mixed reality program. Now there's two levels. There is mixed reality ultra and mixed reality regular. Regular does not require a direct GPU or discrete GPU, which is nice. It could actually run on Ultrabooks. So if you have a XPS 13 or the HP Spectre X360 13-inch, you can run this on there. At least some things. There is a sacrifice. It goes down to 60 frames per second versus 90. But let's talk a little bit, though, before we get into those details. What is this mixed reality stuff? I think Microsoft still has some issues here with branding, but mixed reality for them is an all-encompassing term that includes virtual reality and what we've come to know as experience in HoloLens with holograms. So it's all of that. But I think it's absolutely fair to say in the experience that they're delivering to consumers this fall, along with those new headsets from Dell, HP, Asus, and Acer, that this is Windows virtual reality running on the mixed reality platform. I think that's it's a mouthful. We've accused Microsoft in the past of having a mouthful for their names, but that is truly what this is. This is a virtual reality experience. It's a good virtual reality experience. And there was some big news specifically with Steam that Microsoft has announced a partnership there, so that those games, at least some of them when developers want to, will be available to the Windows 10 ecosystem that can run through this. I think that's a huge deal. I got to try some of those games, including Super Hot, which was pretty awesome, as well as this other zombie game. You can read my write-up about it. But this is kind of, I think, an interesting thing, because the price tag is now not as significantly lower than HTC Vive and Oculus as it was like almost a year ago when they announced this. But it is still about $200 cheaper. And there are these new controllers that are coming out, which are really pretty awesome. They're sort of like trigger controllers. They have these big halos around them, which are the sensors. They can operate behind your back due to these weird, I forget the word that they use to describe it, but it has pretty cool mathematics that go in there into calculating your body and positioning in the room. And I got to try this stuff, and it was really cool. I have to admit, I got to run the, Mixed Reality Ultra and play these games, which is probably the experience you'll want. So you'll want the discrete GPU and a beefier setup. And, mixed reality, it's fun. Like, I have to admit, the games were definitely cool. It's what you can do today with HTC Vive and Oculus Rift. It's just now more affordable and less setup. You don't need sensors on your wall. You just plug the stuff into your PC. There's actually, they say one plug, but it's one cable, two plugs. One is a USB, one is an HDMI. But once you do that and you run the setup, it is pretty seamless. And so it's cool. It's fun. I'm not sure we're going to go beyond that for mainstream use, though. It's still, I feel, niche. It is, as Jez likes to complain about, you're putting something on your face to play a game. And he's not wrong. Wearing the headsets is wearing a headset. You can't see through them. It maps out your room, so you can see your virtual walls, But I don't know how often I'm going to be using this either. I like playing some of the games, but I don't know. Zach, what is your take on all this stuff?
See, since the mixed reality platform covers, virtual reality and the augmented reality stuff to me makes a lot more sense for productivity uses. For, sitting at a desk, say in an office space and working on, say, Word documents and whatever else. So a HoloLens headset, for example, it actually is a lot more interesting in that aspect. But the virtual reality stuff, I also am struggling to sort of realize it's definitely for singular use. So you're not really going to be sitting with other people whilst you're in the virtual reality. It's definitely when you're at home, say in your own office with nobody else around, and you're sitting at your desk and say, hey, I want to go into my virtual world now. And you can do all the same things, I believe, that you can do on HoloLens, such as, opening multiple windows and
right.
And whatever. You can store
they call
objects
that
down.
Cliff's house, right? Yeah, Cliff's house is a virtual house where you start off the experience in, and there's UWP apps already pre-set up in there.
Oh, really?
And you can, and so there's Edge and Groove and all that, and you can, of course, there are like empty walls, and you can move this stuff around and set it up. There's little desks. There's even like a movie viewing room, and they have like the Xbox streaming app already set up in there, so you go in there and you can stream your video games. It's actually really clever, and it's beautiful. And I don't know, but like the resolution is like, if you have a 4K monitor at home, this will be a step down because the resolution just isn't as high. So when you read text, it'll be blocky. It's totally legible and looks good, but you know what I'm saying? It's still a degradation. But the productivity aspect, I guess, is you can have multiple windows, tons of UWP apps open at the same time and look between them and control data. And that is interesting, right? And I think part of the issue here is like we are the tip of the iceberg of all this new stuff, of this mixed reality world. And where it is today, it won't be where it is in 5 years. And although we may feel underwhelmed, Microsoft is building this entire system for what's going to come in 5 to 10 years. So it is one of those, we've got to keep it kind of in perspective.
See, Microsoft's approach to the whole virtual augmented reality sort of market is different from what Google and Apple are doing right now. So as we all know, right. Google and Apple are taking it via the mobile approach, but they've got smartphones and you look into like that little screen on your phone and you can see the virtual or the augmented reality through your screen. And that works, and that I would arguably put it in more people's hands sooner. But what Microsoft is doing, appears to be doing, is approaching the market from the other way, where they're saying, right, so we're putting this on your face first and foremost. That's where virtual reality sort of started for gaming. And they're trying to put that into more consumer hands. And as you say, it's a lot more approachable. No longer do you have to set up all these sort of scanners and sensors with the HTC Vive and the Oculus. It's simply you plug in some cables and it starts working. It's a lot more approachable and a lot cheaper as well, which means more people can afford it. And it's a stepping stone towards the sort of full VR or AR experience where it's on your face. And of course, Apple and Google aren't doing that yet, but I'm sure they will at some point. And at the same time, I'm sure Microsoft will sort of flip-flop back over to the mobile side and start doing it there as well. So it all comes full circle for all the companies. And it's important to remember that the mixed reality effort is part of a bigger picture. It's not just about putting Windows in VR. Because sure, while that's handy for some people, it's not handy for everybody. Like, again, if sitting in an office, maybe it could be okay, but only for certain scenarios. Not every scenario is going to make sense in virtual reality. Augmented reality makes a lot more sense for a lot more of Windows's uses, but again, it's not a full-on replacement. I don't see myself one day picking up, say, a HoloLens 10 or whatever in the future and going, this is my only computer now. I don't need any other computer in the world. I'm pretty sure we're still going to be looking at screens for the next decade.
Yeah, it's a real... I agree. It's also one of those, we don't know what hardware stuff is coming in the next 5-10 years, right? And so between that and batteries, who knows what's happening. And the issue with Microsoft, of course, without mobile, I would say it's definitely bad, because if they get more adoption on Apple and Android, adoption through consumer usage, that obviously feeds right back into developer usage, meaning devs create more apps that do those kind of things. And that's where all of the cool stuff happens. If Microsoft doesn't have the platform, and that's always going to be the case, right? Mobile, and that's what we keep harping on, why it's so bad that Microsoft doesn't have a strong mobile strategy these days, is because the smartphone in 2017 is where the PC was 10 years ago. And Microsoft isn't there right now, at least not in a strong sense. Now, what's interesting about Microsoft is they have the entire ecosystem basically set up, right? They have UWP as the app platform. They have a store that's, it's not as populated, but it has all the features of a store that should be there. They have some hardware teams working on stuff. They have all sorts of HoloLens and augmented reality and sensors. They're all up in that stuff, but they don't have that crown jewel, that piece of hardware that pulls it all together. And that's the bad news. The good news is they have all the other stuff ready to kind of go. And so when it happens, they should be there. But I feel like they could miss out if they don't get in the next year something out there for mobile. They could miss it. Now, I should also hesitate. The augmented reality stuff that's been shown so far has been interesting. A lot of it's like Pokemon Go, right? Which, don't get me wrong, is pretty huge. People love playing that game. The other stuff I love seeing is the virtual rulers, which I've demonstrated is on HoloLens. And it is clever, it's cool, but it's also like, it reminds me of the app I used one time from Home Depot and these other apps where they ID a color through the camera. So you pick a color, it IDs, it gives you the number. So you go to the paint store and you be like, okay, I need this paint. Super cool, super clever. I've used it like once, right? How many times am I going to use a virtual ruler? I'll use it a few times, and when I use it, it'll be awesome. But it's not an app that you open up every day and the first thing in the morning. So in that sense, it's not really a killer, type app. But that is something we're going to see a lot of movement in. And I don't know. It's also good, though, I will say, for where they are with this, that the game stuff that they're pushing is significant. I think that is probably the easiest low-hanging fruit for Microsoft to go after right now, to get this into more people's hands and get them excited for it.
I mean, Microsoft are pretty sweet when it comes to gaming, whether it's Xbox or on PC. Steam's on Windows, and I don't see Steam being as successful as it is without Windows anyway. So Steam and Windows sort of need each other. But it does. It's funny how we keep coming back to mobile, and how a lot of what Microsoft is doing right now with the mixed reality stuff and all that good stuff, for it to be successful for consumers and in general, it needs a mobile play. And Microsoft they're not there. They're still not there in 2017. And as you say, the smartphone now today is where the PC was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, Microsoft was at the forefront of the PC market. They're like, hey, we're here and we're the best. And everyone's like, yes, you are the best. Give me Windows on our devices. Simple as. But these days, nobody wants a Windows-based mobile device because they don't need it. It's not something that they need in their lives. There's no apps on it for, the normal, for the teenagers who like Snapchat and Tinder and whatever. And a lot of what you can do on an iPhone for productivity reasons, you would just pick up a Mac or a Windows-based laptop or desktop to do anyway. So it's Microsoft are in a really hard position, which is why I assume they're going to try and target the Surface phone, whatever they want to call it in the future, at a different audience. Something, or try and create a new market or carve out a new market for a smaller subset of users, obviously, but still a subset of users who are vocal and active and want a kind of device that the Surface phone may be. But it's definitely an uphill battle, and every day Microsoft makes it even more difficult for themselves to get something like this out into the public.
Yeah, I mean, that really comes down to it on this mystery Andromeda thing that they're supposedly working on, which is we all agree it needs to do something different that a current smartphone can't do or doesn't do well. And Microsoft's been good in creating devices so far that allow you to do something you couldn't do before. The $1 million question is, what is that? And we don't know. We just, is this going to be some play off of their augmented reality? Is it going to be a play off of the pen? It'll be all of that stuff. We really don't have any idea. And that's sort of the frustrating part. And it's also the exciting part because there's potential there for them to disrupt the industry. But, we've seen, I was going to say last week we saw Juicero, the juicing company that attempted to disrupt the industry, go under. So this stuff is not easy to do. I don't know. The mixed reality stuff is definitely interesting. I'm kind of excited about it because, like I said, the games were solid, and what I've seen and experienced were really generally fun to play. I did get to play this one game too. It's a social app. I forgot the name of it. You can read it in my write-up. It's actually already out on Steam for the other VR systems, but it's sort of like Second Life, that game that was out years ago that still people use. It's Second Life, but virtual reality. You can go hang out with friends. You can talk to people. You create a virtual avatar. And it's creepy stuff. You can go into a mirror and you'll see yourself, and you can wave, and you can put hats on, and the whole world is interactive, but you can also go there and play sports games like tennis and paintball. And it's kind of a cool twist. I was thinking like maybe we could do our podcast in there. It would be kind of fun. So there's like definitely some cool things to this stuff. I'm not like, this is the next big thing. I don't think it's quite that, but it's good that it's going to be lower price points. I think a lot of people will be able to get into it. I think for the demographic of, 15 to 35-year-olds who play games and are into all this stuff, I think it's a great purchase. It's easier. You can throw these things in your bag and take it with you on your laptop. And so it's definitely an interesting push. But, I think we're both in agreement without a mobile play here. This stuff seems like it'll be a little bit limited in its actual potential to be disruptive to our everyday lives.
And the most confusing part about Microsoft's mobile play is that they just won't put effort into it. They're still focused on the desktop. And as Dan wrote, I think it was this week, he wrote a good editorial on when Microsoft's current Windows 10 strategy and how it sort of doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so this is just, Zach and I have talked about this before, where Windows 10 on desktop, when I wrote this article, I didn't mean it was done, it's perfect, and it's just like...
So many people misunderstood. Like, oh man, really guys, come on.
Lock it up, it's all done. Like, not at all. Like, there's a ton of improvements and little features that could come and improve the Windows 10 experience for desktop and laptops. There's no argument there. But that's always the case, right, with Windows. And that should continue. There should be development there. What I'm saying is that the core features of what makes a desktop OS, I feel like are already here. And now this update, and this could be, and this is really the big question, is the Fall Creators Update sort of a blip? Is it purposely a smaller update that's less impressive because of timing and strategy and scheduling issues that Microsoft is facing? Totally a plausible explanation. Is it that, or is it because we're just kind of running out of ideas for big features, which is also a reasonable explanation? I mean, I don't know what else this desktop system could do that's going to be truly revolutionary. Like in this update, it's like, all right, they changed the Action Center around a bit. I don't love it. I don't hate it either. It's just different for me. We got better emoji support. I joked about this before. I love the emoji picker. It's super smart. But none of this stuff is like, this is the first time where I'm running, like right now, this computer I'm on right now is running fastering. There's nothing about this experience besides that emoji picker that I'm like jealous I don't have on my production release laptops. And it's never happened before. Like with the creators update from the spring, there were general, like really good performance improvements all around that made it using it a lot more fun. And there was just a lot more features that I was really excited about that's the discussion of like, should I put fast ring on my computer now was a legit one. It was like, yes, do it now because it's awesome. I kind of don't care about this update. And I hate saying that, but like, and that's not to say there aren't important things in here. This stuff for accessibility is absolutely huge for people with ALS and muscular degenerative diseases. I think those features are amazing. And those are the kind of things that Microsoft should be doing, and I'm glad they're doing, because that really does help, bring this computing stuff to people who normally were left out. But I'm talking from general consumer perspective, there just isn't a lot here. And I would love to be, see whatever comes out in spring of 2018, reset that and be like, oh, there's all sorts of cool big features here, and it's really awesome. What happened in the fall was just kind of a blip. And then cool, but I'm not sure. And I feel like it's like, I get when Windows 10 came out, we all agreed, all right, they're definitely focusing on desktop. And that's important because that's where all their customers are. That's where enterprise is. They're big partners. They want to keep their laptop people happy. And that was smart. I agreed with that. And that's when we saw mobile start to get downplayed. And at the time, I was just like, okay, that makes sense, right? Mobile is like 2% of the world out of smartphone users. But now here we are in 2017 going to 18. And that's just like, okay, the desktop's cool. You've kind of, laptops are coming back. We're actually seeing increases in those. But it's like, all right, but what about wearables? What about augmented reality in terms of mobile devices? What about mobile devices? What about, Internet of Things and connected home stuff? Yeah, I know Harman Kardon speakers coming, and I think it's going to be a really nice system, but it's also kind of a Me Too device. So where's all that? And that's where I see all the exciting stuff going on in technology right now, the next wave. And I just see them touching on that stuff and doing a little bit here, doing a little bit there. Whereas I think they should be leading in those categories. And where's their wearable? Like, we had Band. Band was awesome. It had its issues, but those weren't insurmountable. And like, now we're not hearing a peep about any kind of wearable from them. And that's not to say they don't have anything, but there's no signs that they're doing anything there.
Microsoft is missing in pretty much every new tech market outside of desktop. And desktop's not even a new market. Desktop's been around for donkey's years now. So, the wearable stuff, the speaker stuff, the connected home stuff, the mobile stuff, Microsoft are missing in all four of those. And they're all consumer-based markets, I'd say, and they're all very popular, or will become very popular. We know the smartphone market obviously is. The connected home stuff and maybe this connected speaker stuff, not so popular just yet, but it does have potential, and it's important to be in that market regardless. The IoT stuff is just should be there anyway. And the wearables, again, maybe not as important to everybody, but people are buying them, and people and other companies are making them. Microsoft isn't making them anymore. Microsoft are sitting on their hands with their desktop stuff, and as you say pretty well in your article, Windows as a desktop OS is pretty much done and has been done for, I'd say, ages. Maybe since Windows 7, I'd say they perfected the desktop OS. Maybe even Windows XP, some would argue that's when it got as perfect for most people. So Microsoft sort of adding extra features onto Windows 10 twice a year is nice for people like you and me. But for the rest of the industry, for the technology in general going forwards, it's not really changing much. Less and less people are wanting desktops and laptops. I know a few people who only have an iPhone or an Android or just a phone, a smartphone device. They don't have a laptop or a tablet or any Windows-based machine. They just have an iOS device or an Android device because that's all they need in their life. They just have it for communicating, social networking, whatever the apps is that they use. And that's pretty much it. They don't need a device for word processing because not everybody does. Not everybody does need Word or Office or email. And that's becoming more and more the norm these days. At some point in the future, a mobile phone or a mobile device is the only thing you're going to need. And we all know Microsoft is apparently working on something, but they're not here yet. And people don't know about Microsoft in these markets just yet. And by the time Microsoft does into these markets, it could be too late. And we already know it's too late for smartphones, which is why Microsoft is trying to carve out a different market for their mobile devices. But for everything else, it's getting there. It's almost too late for the wearable market, for the speaker market, for the connected home market, and so on and so forth. Microsoft needs to be, sorting itself out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, how long has Apple HomeKit been out, Yeah. Now, I'm not saying HomeKit's like awesome, but Apple at least has a framework there. When you look at the connected home speaker stuff, and I wholeheartedly agree, that's a weird market. Like, I have some of these devices. I'm not blown away by these devices. I think they're clever and smart. But let's face facts here. Come the holiday season, Google is going to have multiple partners with multiple speakers out on the market at varying price points. And Amazon already has this too. And you have Microsoft and Apple stepping in sort of late to this. Actually, in that sense, Microsoft is positioned a little bit better since I would say their platform is actually more open than Apple's. But there seems like to be no reason for this stuff because Microsoft is a company with a lot of money and a lot of resources. And the fact that they get beat out by companies like Fitbit, and that's not to slight Fitbit, who I think are awesome. I'm like one of their biggest supporters, but they're kind of a small company. I mean, someone joked around about how like Microsoft should buy Fitbit, which I don't actually agree with. I think Fitbit's doing fine on their own. Why ruin that? But Fitbit made $300 million last quarter, where LinkedIn made over $900 million. So, I mean, when you look at the numbers that Microsoft deals in, it's like, and here's a company that basically, completely beat them at this stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I don't see a reason why. But this goes back to, what does Microsoft want to be? Do they want to be an enterprise company? Do they want to be a company that makes consumer software? Do they want to make consumer hardware? Because they do a bit of everything, but nothing really well, right? Except for maybe the enterprise stuff. But when it comes to the consumer end, they make some really awesome hardware, just not a ton of it. The software stuff is pretty good on desktop, but we agree they don't have the platform set up for that's being adopted widely. Now, Windows IoT, someone would tell me, it's like, well, it's getting picked up by enterprise and everything. And that's smart. But like, I feel like in order for the stuff to really catch on, like, I don't know, they have these opportunities in the consumer market that they seem like they're letting people, all these other companies walk by them. Meanwhile, they have this entire infrastructure. They got Azure, they got Windows, they got the driver stuff, they have hardware people. Like, there's like, seems like no reason why they couldn't be in on that stuff. And it's super frustrating.
Maybe Microsoft doesn't want to be in the consumer market because a lot of their actions would suggest that all they're interested in is enterprise and making money, however that works. Because enterprise is a moneymaker for Microsoft. We all know that. That's pretty much the number one or two sort of moneymaker for Microsoft is enterprise Office, and I think Azure as well is up there. Windows isn't that anymore. Windows doesn't make the most money for Microsoft. Xbox doesn't make the most money for Microsoft. Pretty much, I don't think any of Microsoft's consumer-facing products make money for Microsoft as much as Office, which some would argue is a consumer thing, but I think that's more of a enterprise/productive thing for a certain kind of people, for schools, for example, or work businesses and whatever. So maybe Microsoft just, they can see that they're making money in these areas, and they are, some would argue, number one in the enterprise space, and maybe number two behind Amazon, whoever, I don't know. And they're comfortable with that, and they don't need to be anywhere else to,
Yeah. Well, I guess, but then it's all that mixed messaging. Like, why have a Surface line?
Right, but yeah, you are right. But then again, how are they supposed to sell Windows? Sorry, Office or Azure or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, same with Xbox or even their keyboards. Like that's a weird thing. They're kind of in consumer, and the thing is, like,
not really. Yeah, I get it. It's weird.
Yeah, and it's like I almost get the like, well, they don't really want to be in consumer, which okay, but like, why not? like I see Google there, I see Amazon there, I see Apple there, all doing very well in consumer. And it's not like Microsoft's like, well, they're too small. They don't have the structure. They don't have the resources. That's the complete opposite. They have like all that stuff. Like, there's no reason why they couldn't make that stuff happen if they wanted to and be a serious competitor in those areas. I mean, it's almost like they just don't have faith in themselves to be able to pull it off. It's like, well, we could go into wearables again, but come on, we're not really that good. Which is like sending like a weird message. It's like, you guys can't do that. Like, I mean, I remember, a year or two ago, it was like every company in the world, Razer made a wearable. Now, it didn't do well. You don't hear anything more about it, which goes to show you that is a tough market. I'm not arguing there, but I just feel like if there was a company that could pull this stuff off, it's Microsoft. They have everything there. How did Google, how do we go talking from Google as a consumer company making inroads in the consumer space, as a company that is a search engine that sells advertising? Like, that's what they do, right? They're They're a search engine and they sell advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, they're a serious competitor now in the consumer space, and Microsoft is hesitant about this decision. If that is their position, then I feel like they're making some really wrong decisions. But part of me gets it. Enterprise is low-hanging fruit for them in the sense of that's where their customer base is, their bread and butter, and it's actually making money for them, right? Someone will always point to me, well, look at their stock price. I just feel like they could do both if they really wanted to, right?
Yeah, and it's so strange. If you cast your minds back to 2015, at that October event they had the bands, they had the Banto, whatever it was. They had a wearable, they had a smartphone, they had a laptop, they had the Surface Book, and obviously they had the Surface Pro. That was a very interesting keynote for Microsoft. That was them sort of going, right, we're all in now. We're all in on the consumer side. Here's our smartphone. Here's our wearable. Here's our laptop. Here's the Windows ecosystem and all those devices, just like Apple has, just like Google has.
That was awesome. I agree.
And then a year later, some would argue that something happened at Microsoft where I guess Satya Nadella or somebody went, right, we're not doing that. We are changing our strategy. We are pivoting towards where our money is being made and less where
LinkedIn.
Less where because Microsoft in the consumer market, yes, they can do it, but it's not as important. I would say important for Microsoft when it comes to money making. And I think when Satya Nadella was selected as CEO, he was sort of put in there as someone who was you need to fix us, you need to make us money now,
right?
And he's doing it, and he's making the shareholders happy and the board happy. And I think as long as they're happy with him, he's going to keep doing what he thinks is best for the company, whether it means consumer products or not. It's unfortunate for people like us and for the general population who do want Microsoft to succeed in these markets where everybody's sort of using. But if it's not something that is going to make much money for Microsoft, is it really worth it for them to even attempt at this point?
Yeah,
that's I think the question that they talk about internally.
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like that they have I don't know. What's the future of Windows 10 then?
Yeah, no, it is. It's such an odd picture I wish I could just walk into Microsoft and sit down and just say, "Hey, Satya Nadella, what are you doing right now? Tell me everything." Because I've tried it to work it out in every which way, and it makes sense in some areas, but then it doesn't make sense in others. There's no general plan that makes sense for everything. It's all this bit makes sense, but this bit doesn't. This bit makes sense, but this bit doesn't. It's very confusing.
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly. The October 2015 event was sort of like, that to me felt like, this is what we've been waiting for. Mm-hmm. Even if the Lumia 950 and 950 XL were not like the most amazing devices, it was still there. It was like, we got that, we got these new Surfaces, we got a wearable. I was like, oh my God, it's all coming together, right? This was sort of that idea of one Windows everywhere on all these devices. They're all connected. And let's face it, Band still worked really well. I mean, we joke, we're talking about the new Fitbit Ionic, which I'm super stoked about. I'll be reviewing it too. But I remember my girlfriend, she immediately asked, she's like, oh, can you respond to notifications with it? And I was just like, no.
Yes. No.
And she remembers because on Bands, you could. You can actually, Band had that keyboard, which the first time I saw that keyboard, I was like, ludicrous. There's no way that thing works. And it totally worked. Now, I didn't want to bang out an email on it, but man, when I was at the gym, we're just walking and I got a text message. Yeah, I could be like, all right, or respond like, yeah, sure, no. I could actually give concise, tiny responses. And that was so cool. It could have been improved in many ways, but then Microsoft abandoned it. And that's just kills me. It's like that little keyboard, all those little innovations there were just generally interesting things for wearable. It wasn't, they didn't create another pedometer, right? And now they're just like, yeah. It's just like, wait, you guys even where you had moments of real creativity and ingenuity, you still didn't harp on it. Even though the market was still so young, you could have worked it out.
Microsoft didn't give it a chance, and that's what they do quite often. They don't give anything a chance. I know with the smartphone stuff, they sort of gave it a chance for a little while. And just be honest, with Windows Phone 8 and 8.1, we were getting somewhere. We were, I think, at 4 or 5% global market share when they decided to go, well, we don't care anymore.
They just made a lot of weird decisions, like the licensing thing for a while, where they charge companies to do it, and the update issues. There was. Yeah. I mean, it's mismanagement. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's people that didn't see the right vision and didn't position the company to be ready for it. And that's all that was for mobile.
Now, we are talking about what Microsoft's doing today. Now, we don't know. Well, I mean, we do know bits and pieces of what they're working on internally for the future. And Andromeda OS, this thing that we've sort of mentioned in the past, it keeps coming up as sort of some kind of savior for Microsoft's mobile strategy and a whole new thing for Windows in general. And perhaps what Microsoft is waiting for this Andromeda stuff to sort of be ready before they start re-entering these markets and start sort of providing these consumer products that people will want. Because when Microsoft did that 2015 event and they announced the phone, the band, and the laptops, whatever, it was Windows 10 and it was one Windows, but it wasn't true one Windows. It was Windows 10 it was Windows 10 on desktop, obviously. That's Windows 10 desktop. Then it was Windows 10 mobile, which, although is Windows 10, is a sort of different version of Windows 10. It's not the same OS. It shares the same core, which we all know, one core, but it's not the same version of Windows 10. And then we obviously had the band, which wasn't Windows 10 at all. It was some kind of something else, whatever.
Yeah, it was custom firmware, basically.
Yeah, it wasn't Windows 10 at all. And some of the rumors when Microsoft did kill the band was because they couldn't get Windows 10 running on it, because Windows 10 itself is actually really heavy, and to run on a device that has, a tiny battery and a small processor, it's not easy. Windows 10 Mobile, as we all know now, is being sort of carted off down some other path that no one cares about because of what they're working on internally, which is what we're hearing to be a sort of actual true universal Windows 10 that is the same across devices. It's a sort of modular version where, say, we don't know if it's whether Microsoft is able to customize it and then sort of cast it out to OEMs, or if OEMs can customize it for their devices, or if it would be a consumer thing that consumers can customize. But basically, Andromeda OS is the one core, the basics that you need for Windows. Then from there, it's modular, so you can add certain features on certain bits and pieces that would make sense for a device. So you can have the base of Windows 10, then you can have Win32, and that would be, hey, that's a desktop version of Windows 10. Then maybe for phones, you can have, hey, here's the Andromeda base, then here's some other mobile things, but not Win32, because maybe that doesn't make sense on a device with a 4-inch screen. At the same time, here is a mobile device that does have Win32 because, hey, it makes sense on this foldable tablet. Whatever. It's kind of like that, and perhaps that's what Microsoft is waiting for when it comes to their consumer products. Because when, like I said, in 2015, these were all very different versions of Windows and very different sort of software development
and Windows
paths.
10 on ARM, which is just Windows. It's not a new SKU. It's just straight up Windows, Pro or Home.
So I would, this is me being very optimistic, but perhaps 2018 will be where we start seeing Microsoft re-enter these markets and start seeing them really give it a
go. And I truly want to believe that. And that argument makes sense. And especially with the band stuff, that's what I was hearing too, that, it runs firmware, but doesn't technically fit into the system because you can't do UWP for it. So it's very limited. And I totally get all that. I guess part of it is the silence, right? I mean, band 2, they didn't even say anything publicly. They're just slowly pulled them from the shelves and just stopped supporting it. And it was like this, they just try to sneak out in the middle of the night kind of thing. And it was just if that's their strategy, I just wish they were kind of be I don't know. Why can't they just be listen, we thought about bands. It wasn't the right product at the right time. We're still looking into wearables. We'll have something. We think we'll have something. At least give that little, this isn't what it seems like, which is us just giving up. We have this other concept, this other idea where we want this to be. And that's what we're working on now. At least, they could be more public just about, we're working on this because we think we have an idea. We're pursuing it. We're not saying it's going to come out, but we have some exciting, things we were doing in that area. At least if they did that, we could hang on to that and be all right, there is a game plan here. Everything you said is that's the Zach game plan that we've kind of heard. We just never heard Microsoft say that. Right. And that's the frustrating part is we're inferring, putting the pieces together, but we've done that before, right? That was always the case with UWP and one core. It was oh, wait, so this is kind of all one Windows, but then it kind of wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also this other issue with the runway categories, right? We're letting Google and Amazon and everything like that sort of define those categories and get their foot in the door where Microsoft's going to have to come in and either have to really wow everybody on day one, or they're just not going to, there'll always be a second or third rate player. And
yeah, we do know that Microsoft are working on this Andromeda and C# stuff. That is something that every day people go into Microsoft's headquarters and they sit down and they work on that thing. They are working on it, and as I continue to hear, it is supposed to start making its appearance in Redstone 4 and 5 next year. So it makes you wonder, why are they working on this if this isn't their plan? Because Andromeda isn't. Right. Let's be clear here. Andromeda isn't just a thing that will be useful for mobile devices. It changes the game for all Windows devices. It makes building Windows and applying Windows and just for OEMs as well, building desktop laptops, even Xbox. It benefits Xbox with the Seashell and obviously Andromeda. And Xbox can have, hey, here's all the Xbox components that Xbox has. Preload that onto Xbox, there you go. And of course, not every module will be available to everybody because you can't have Xbox modules on desktop, or can you? We don't know because this is still stuff being worked on internally. But it is being worked on, and that's what I continue to hear. Seashell is in full Steam development, Andromeda OS, and I guess the hardware is still in full Steam development. So it is going to be interesting to see what comes of this. The Andromeda stuff is going to be a big change for the underhood, the underside of Windows. So you're not going to notice anything, I don't believe, on the surface. The Seashell stuff is where you'll notice, obviously, the shell changing or whatever. But the actual Andromeda OS stuff is more under the hood and more sort of just for making Windows more... the best way to describe it is Andromeda makes Windows more flexible. Right. You can't put Windows 10 on a watch right now. It's just you can't do it. You can't do it. Andromeda will make it so you can. That's pretty much how you can describe it. Same with Windows on Windows 10 on phone, Windows 10 on laptop, Xbox. I don't know, tables, mirrors, anything that it can run on OS, Andromeda will make it so Windows 10 can run on that, hopefully. So we'll see what Microsoft is doing with that.
Yeah, agree 100%. And, I think what they really need to do, we can all agree on, and we'll move on from this topic, is they basically need an October 2015 event part 2.
Yeah.
where they come on stage and they're like, this is the new Windows 10. Mm-hmm. It runs on wearables. Yes. Here's a new wearable. Here's a new mobile phone device that you'll want to carry. Here's a laptop. Here's a desktop. They need that kind of thing to really wow people. If they did that and go, by the way, this platform is available today to all our partners who are all coming out with devices in this category, and they're going to be able to create whatever they want. If they did that, okay. Then I'll be like,
that's a
you guys were the
start.
masters. Yeah, okay. That's exactly what needs to be done. But if they don't do that, then I have no idea what all this is for, because if they're building Seashell and everything for enterprise, I don't know what that means. I don't know. As always with Microsoft, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
quickly, let's talk about the October event.
Oh, the October event this year. So Microsoft, yes. The Verge apparently heard that Microsoft is going to be holding a hardware event in October at Future Decoded in London, and Panos Panay is going to be there. This is confirmed by Microsoft. But what isn't exactly confirmed by Microsoft is if they will be announcing any new hardware. The Verge seems to suggest that they will be, and if that's the case, then we're expecting a Surface Pro LTE, which Microsoft announced will be coming later this year anyway, so it makes sense to announce it there.
It's weird, though, because this is Future Decoded, right? Mm-hmm. So they do this every year. It's always in London. I always get invited. I never go. And it's not to slight Microsoft. It's a trip, But it has multiple keynotes. It's a strategy kind of future thing, Panos has never spoken there, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And it's weird for them because they always have done Surface events, except for the education one, which was a combo of Windows 10s announcement, education/Surface laptop. But they've always done Surface events as their own, right? And then they went to China for Surface Pro, the new Surface Pro.
I think they've done a couple where Surface has just been mixed in. Like the Surface Studio launch was part of the Windows 10 thing. They had a Windows 10 event, right?
It's still a focused media event. Where,
that's true, yeah.
The media comes because there's going to be hardware and software news. And those things...
This is like Microsoft announcing new Surface hardware at Build. It's weird.
Exactly. It's literally gonna be kind of buried, where they don't get, because right now the reason why they do those events is because it's like, we know, right? Oh, this is gonna be kind of a Surface event and hardware events, and so then everybody media gears up for it. I'm not getting the vibe here, which raises the question: is this going to be Surface Book 2? Which Zach seems to believe that, there's a chance for that. Or is this just going to be Surface Pro LTE models? Someone was recently saying the Surface Book was going to get an LTE model as well. Which to me, that sounds like something like this kind of announcement. It's like, oh, we're just going to, hey, we got the new Surface LTE here. It's cool, right? And that makes sense at that event. It makes less sense to be like, oh, Surface Book 2, which is sort of like serious hardware. That seems like it would deserve its own day,
But maybe Surface Book 2 isn't all that, though. Perhaps it's just a minor refresh.
That would be so disappointing.
I mean, who knows? I mean, we haven't seen any leaks.
They finally put Kivy Lake into it. That's it. They're still like, oh man, if they did that, I don't think they would do that. That's not the Surface team. And we know from speaking with Panos personally, they don't do that.
Well,
right? they only want to release devices that have significant changes. So.
Well, the Surface Pro 2017 wasn't that significant of a change.
I disagree there. See, no, that's the spin a lot of people in media, I think, say. But as someone who uses that device, to me, it feels very different from Surface Pro 4. And it gets better battery life. The display is better. It runs cooler. The pen is better. Everything, Windows Hello, the way it resumes is quicker. It's just a better device. What it is, though, it's like death by 1,000 cuts in reverse. It's just 1,000 smaller improvements, but the overall experience is, I would say, significant. And a fanless Core i5 is a pretty big deal, too. And you don't hear anyone complaining about that device, which a lot of people speculated there would be.
So yeah, perhaps we'll see a new Surface Book. Perhaps we won't. We generally have no idea. It is odd for Microsoft to be planning a hardware announcement at Future Decoded. Although at the same time, this may be them sort of just making the most of an event that they've already got, going, hey, we might as well just take the stage here. We've got it already. And it might also play into their whole idea of, when they went to China and they announced the Surface Pro there, part of their story there was, we're global. By the way, guys, we have our Surfaces here in China. Yeah. Perhaps they're going to do the same thing in Europe as well. Say, hey, by the way, Europe, UK, maybe. Don't worry, we're here as well. Here's some new hardware. I'm in London right now to show you this stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe that's kind of what they're going for here. Or maybe they're just Microsoft and they just have no plan and they just do things on the whim.
Well, either way, I'm going to leave open my calendar. I might fly out to London just because I haven't been there in a couple of years anyway, so I'm due for a trip. I kind of like going there. I see Rich, we have so many people there. I used to hang out with Rich Edmonds there. He takes me to some fine restaurants. Of course, we have Richard Devine, and we have you. Maybe Jez. We'll see where Jez is residing at that time. He's in Germany currently at this moment, but we'll see. Pay attention to October for that. Let's talk about hardware. Dell XPS 27. So I did a review of this. I reviewed the device earlier this year when it came out, and then Dell was like, hey, we got kind of a revamp that we would like you to take a look at. And basically, it addressed some of my complaints where the XPS, if you haven't seen, the XPS 27 is an all-in-one PC. And I know a lot of people are kind of like, don't care for all-in-ones because obviously there's limited upgradability and they tend to be underpowered compared to a lot of desktops. But Dell was like, hey, this one fixes a lot of the stuff that you kind of complained about in your original review. Would you like to take a look at it? And they sent it in this giant red box. It's pretty huge. But I did take a look at it, and it's so good. I'm about to, as soon as this podcast is over, I'm using the Surface Studio right now, but I'm going to be swapping out with this XPS 27. They said I can keep it for a couple more weeks if I want. And I'm going to swap it out. And the reason is, it's because my complaint with Surface Studio has always been, it's really beautiful. It's also kind of underpowered. I don't like the hard drive, and the GPU is okay. I can do some, gaming stuff on it. Granted, I'm using Surface Studio, not what it's designed for. So I don't want to criticize Microsoft too much. But the 27 is got a 4K display, and it's 100% Adobe sRGB and Adobe RGB. Now, sRGB, if you don't know about the stuff, is easier to get. You find a lot of laptops in the 95 to 100% range. That's high-end laptops, at least. 100% Adobe RGB, I almost never see. It's basically, that means that display is 100% color accurate. And for people who work in photography and video, it's super crucial that what you're looking on that display matches what actually is in the real world, and you're not getting distortion. And it's super impressive. It's 4K, it's touchscreen. But what they did was they upgraded the processor, so now it's the new 7th generation Kaby Lake series. They increased the GPU, which is the most significant. Went from like an AMD, I think it was like a 470 to the 570, and they doubled the video RAM. And now this desktop is VR ready. Now it's on the edge of VR. It's the minimum requirements for running Oculus Rift and stuff. But yes, you can plug in your Oculus Rift or HTC Vive and totally run this. You can, of course, run Windows Mixed Reality on Ultra with it as well. And it's just a beautiful, and they also replaced the SSD. So now it's a Samsung PM961, which is a 960 Evo for the commercial, which means it gets super fast read and write speeds, no hard drive. Now, they still have a lower end version. That's $1399. It does have a hybrid, but I'm talking about the high end. And this is the first all-in-one where I'm like, I could use this and not feel like I'm making a compromise. Because when I use Studio, I definitely feel like I'm making a compromise, but it's got a beautiful display. So it's just like, it's very distracting. But this is the first all-in-one that I use. I was just like, this is like, I could get behind and use this normally. And just to put it in context, I played Gears of War 4, and on the older version, medium settings, full HD, it got like 42 frames per second. On this new version, it got over 90 frames per second on the same setting. So that's just how much dramatically it improved. And 90 frames per second of Gears of War 4 full HD on medium or mixed settings is pretty awesome, right? That's a big difference. But it goes to show you, this is the general trend, right? We're seeing with all-in-ones now. All-in-ones now are becoming really powerful. They're becoming that, like, they're able to jam in a lot of stuff in there that make them like the old desktop PCs we used to have. And this thing is more powerful than most desktop PCs were 2 years ago. So it's super cool to see that. It's expensive. It's $25.99, I believe, or $26.99. No, $25.99. It's on sale right now. But compared to Surface Studio, it's like $4,100. It's like, oh my god, it's super cheap. But it's cool for people who want an all-in-one system that you just plug it in. It's like an AC plug. You just plug into the wall, and that's basically it. Unless you put in a mouse, it's pretty cool. I didn't even mention it's got 10 freaking speakers, which is ludicrous. Now, people don't like, you mentioned the chin, right? It's got this big chin at the bottom. But I mean, it's not like it's there for nothing. They jammed 10 speakers into it, and they're loud. Like on Windows, for you guys using Windows, when you turn up your volume, it's out of 100, 0 out of 100. I have to keep this on 10 for normal use. Wow. Any more than that is just default Windows is just too loud. And when you put music on this or you're watching a movie or a trailer, the audio is so crisp. It's aimed right at your face. You get the nice center channel kind of feel to it. You can control the spatial separation of the speakers through virtual software. It's very good. Now, I know some people are audiophiles. They're like, well, I have a Bose system or Onkyo, and it's 7.1. Okay, I mean, that's always going to be a level higher. But I'm saying as someone who's like kind of into audio, I was super impressed by this. It's just like you can use this as like a full-on stereo system and a nice. It seems like an ideal computer. I'm trying to get it. If I can see my girlfriend, I can put it into we have a very open concept living room kitchen thing. I'd still have to put it in there because it'd be like, oh my god, if I put music and blast that, it'd be so awesome. But she frowns upon those kind of things. But yeah, go check it out. Go check the review. Read other people's reviews. Make sure I'm not, lying here on this stuff. But I did a lot of benchmarks on it too, so you can check it out. I think if you're interested in an all-in-one PC and you want something that's on the level of Surface Studio, but cheaper and more powerful, this is an option. Now, I should also point out finally that it doesn't do pen support, which is a bummer. Now, I don't use pen a lot on Surface Studio, but I don't complain that I can use a pen on it, right? It's one of those things. It's like, it's nice to have, but this one doesn't have that. So,
quickly, we didn't mention is the Windows 10s upgrade thing. So yeah, Microsoft announced this week that they are extending the availability of the Windows 10s to Windows 10 Pro free upgrade on devices like the Surface laptop, and I believe any others that come launch of Windows 10s. So that's very interesting. Microsoft have also said that they extended it to March 31st, 2018. So, about 3 more months worth of time. So if you're somebody who's still not sure, I guess you have 3 more months. But why have they done this extension? Yes. It's very confusing. It doesn't make sense.
It's always weird when you announce an extension and no reason why.
Yeah.
It's not because we've seen such an amazing response. My speculation is Windows 10s, to be successful, it hinges 100% on getting Desktop Bridge Centennial apps into the store. We're still waiting on iTunes. They said by end of the year, so they still got some time there. That would fit within that time frame. But that's just one example, right? Presumably, and this is what we're told at Build, there's already 1,000 Centennial apps. That was back in March in the store. But in order for Centennial to work, they got to build out all these APIs. And I have the number at the time. I think it was like 300,000 APIs exist for Win32. And they've only got like a couple hundred down so far. And they're obviously just prioritizing which ones, because some of them were like literally one use cases. Like some company made an app and had this weird thing. They don't need to make that for Centennial. But for this like range of like mainstream apps, that's one reason why you don't see all mainstream apps all of a sudden in the stores. They just don't work with the UWP system, they need to make those bridges, actually, those little minor connections happen. So Microsoft's hard at work at that. And as those APIs come online, these companies can start putting stuff in the store. But until that reaches sort of a critical mass, and we're seeing an uptick. I've seen, if you look at the store today, I see a lot more professional apps in the store than I did a year ago. You're seeing a lot less smartphone apps and actually like real apps, and you're seeing a lot of real PC games too come to the store. But until that gets more, it's Windows 10s doesn't have a chance in the consumer space. So I think they looked at their data and said, we need to extend this a little bit longer because we're not going to have as much of these apps as we want.
You know what I think this is? I think this is OEMs asking Microsoft to extend it because they are planning to launch ARM-based hardware at the end of this year, December, or maybe November, whenever they're ready to do it. And that doesn't give enough time for consumers to say, hey, here's a new ARM-based laptop with Windows 10s, but I want Windows 10 Pro. I can get that for upgrade. Perhaps they were extending it because of that reason. So the ARM-based devices that are launching at the very end of this year, the people who buy that have a chance to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro. And I would assume that's OEMs asking Microsoft or pleading with Microsoft to extend the deadline a little bit longer so their ARM-based devices at least have a chance. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are looking at Windows 10s still aren't sold on the idea. I see a lot of comments.
I'm sure most people don't even know what it is.
Right. And I'm sure OEMs don't want to have to deal with consumers picking up these new ARM-based laptops and then coming home and realizing, hey, Chrome doesn't install, and then having to pay $50 to upgrade.
But do you really think the Windows 10 on ARM devices will be S?
Depends. It's up to the OEM. It doesn't matter what the SKU is.
It could be. Well, I mean, it does in the sense of, I know what you're saying. So what Zach's pointing out here is Windows 10 on ARM is not a new SKU. So you can make a Windows 10 ARM device with Home, S, or Pro, or even Enterprise.
Or server.
That's all. Yeah, or server. So that's all possible. But for an OEM still, to make a Windows 10s device, it's more expensive than a Windows 10 home device because the license is more expensive. Because Windows 10s, as we know, is Windows 10 Pro with a restriction on it, which is why it's only $50. So I would think that you would see companies go, especially since it's a double edge. It's like, not only is it ARM, it can only run 32-bit code. Now there's S. I feel like they would hedge their bet. Like, let's just go with the home thing because that's familiar. Everybody knows that, and sell it with ARM.
Not unless Microsoft said no, you can't use Home.
They're not going to say that.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea why they've extended it, but that's my speculation. It ties in with the ARM devices coming later this year and whatever else. But again, this is all speculation. We have no confirmation on any of this. But hey,
it sounds weird to me because I would feel like.
Well, I'm not saying every OEM is going to launch a Windows 10s ARM base. Some of them might, not all of them.
Say a Windows 10 ARM device launches with S December 24th. So what? You get 3 months. I mean, it's like I don't know what's the point. I mean, or you launch it January or February. Like I believe Lenovo said they may have a device out later or early 2018. Like, okay, so we get a month. There's no value there. So I don't know. I don't see that happening, but we'll see.
I guess we'll never know because Microsoft's not going to tell us.
Well, what they'll tell us in January is they're extending it through June.
It'd just be free forever. Why not? Although, remember when Windows 10 was free as a free upgrade for Windows 7 and 8, and we were going, they're going to extend it. They'll extend it. They never did. They never extended it.
That's a good point because I know someone's going to ask, well, why don't they just make it free forever? Because, as I mentioned earlier, Windows 10s is Windows 10 Pro with a cap on it. But when you unlock it, and if you're getting a free upgrade, you're getting a free Windows 10 Pro license, which is $100 more than a Windows 10 Home license. Someone pays for that. I mean, Microsoft, like I said, doesn't fudge their numbers when it comes to licenses. They have to put that down, and so they have to leave room for, okay, we're going to have an upgrade period, so we're actually charging this, but we're going to allow people to shift. But if you gave it away, the upgrade free forever, what you're really doing is giving Windows 10 Pro away free forever on those devices.
Yeah.
And you basically said, we're going to take a $50 cut in all our licenses on these devices. That's not a smart business model for 5 years out, right? So, but yeah. Xbox, so we're running out of an hour here. We're going to go a little bit longer, I think, this week because we're kind of making up with 2 weeks. But let's talk about the Xbox update. Did you get this? You're on the alpha ring,
I
right?
did, yes. I've had a bit of a play of it. It's a nice, well-rounded update. Jez Colden, our Xbox editor, did a sort of walkthrough on the new build that came out, which I believe is also in the beta ring or whatever they call it on the Xbox Insider program. It's in like the second ring below alpha now, which is awesome. And this build includes
loser ring.
This build includes light mode, which is something Microsoft teased at I think Gamescom, maybe a bit earlier than that. And it's now here in the build and it works. Oddly, it was in the build, but it wasn't available to be switched on straight away. I guess Microsoft hit a button, like, I don't know, up in the cloud world, and my Xbox picked it up eventually. That's a very odd thing, but yeah, they did enable it eventually after the build rolled out. And you go in there's a new area called system personalization, and there's an option to change from dark to light. There's also an option to turn on and off the animations that the new build includes. So when you click on buttons, for example, like the button will sort of push in and push back out again before sort of
Smooth transitions.
Yeah,
I actually disabled that, and then I forgot to see what the difference was. I'll have to go back and check that out again.
All right. So yeah, there's a few improvements like that in this build. Overall, very nice design. The light mode is interesting.
The retina burning mode, as people call it.
Yeah, it's like, who's going to use this? It makes
it looks nice on the main screen because you only have a little bit that pops up that's white. But on certain, like the settings screen, which is all, it's very blinding. It's like, as someone pointed out, and this is true, it's like when Netflix launches on the Xbox, because that too is an all white background with red lettering at nighttime. It's like, oh my God, it's like looking to the Ark of the Covenant. It is a weird choice. Like, I don't know why they just don't go back to black for that. But it's a neat option. I would be happier, and I've said this before, I believe in smart mode changes. One reason I love the OnePlus 5, by the way, was because it's night mode now. It could be on a schedule, which just makes sense. It's like, it's nighttime phone, switch to night mode. Whereas the OnePlus 3T didn't have that. So you had to like go into settings and flick a switch. I was like, this is the most archaic thing. But I feel like the same thing with Xbox. It's like, I feel like I'd be happy with light mode during the day, but then like at sunset, go back to dark mode, right? And I feel like and we've seen that now. Microsoft did that with their own Windows 10 PC. I feel like they should do that with Xbox, and I'd be happier.
I do admit, I do like the light mode in the guide when you press the Xbox button and it comes through the side. It looks really nice there. And it's also a throwback to the old Xbox 360 guide, which was, I think, looked really nice with the Kinect dashboard and stuff. It makes sense there, but the overall, when, it's the settings app where it's like just blindingly bright, it's like, it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there. But I guess they're doing this because, hey, it's on Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile, and it's a thing Windows can do, therefore it makes sense to do it here.
Yeah, I mean, hey, options are good. Quick opinion about the new dashboard from you.
It's getting better. The initial
that was a pregnant pause there.
So yeah, the initial build that they released wasn't great. I was not looking forward to this update, but they have improved it quite a bit with the newer builds that they've been releasing. For example, they're changing how the algorithm on the front page works. So the ads that do show up will be more sort of useful to you rather than just any random ad that shows up. Because I don't care for Gears of War. When that dashboard update came out, I was seeing Gears of War ads. Like, I don't want to see you. But now I can actually say, hey, I don't want to see this ad, and it won't show me Gears of War stuff anymore, which I like. Also, they've changed it so the game that's in your disk drive, or the last Apple game you launched, is now a big square when you select it, which is a lot nicer, and it makes it a lot more prominent. Whereas before it was the same size as all the other ads and weirdness, which was kind of odd. So yeah, they are making nice improvements to it. Yeah, I'm okay with it now.
I actually like this update a lot. I agree. The changes that have come since the big push from it have been good. Like I really like the small, like the more pins now. Before you could only have, like, it was like 15 apps. Now it's something like 61. You just made it all tiny. But I like that. I'm one of those people that have a lot of things pinned, and so I like having that choice. I find it more fluid, and for me, it's always just about speed. I just hated hitting the menu, the Xbox button, and it would be like a second or two, and that menu would pop out. Like, that drove me nuts. I can say this is faster. It seems faster. This actually, it's more fluid. I like the menu system. Everything bounces. I agree with some of the, the promotion stuff. That doesn't bother me too much. I'm just kind of used to a world where, companies promote their own products. And frankly, we've talked about this before with the Xbox Gold thing. I actually appreciate being able to see, this new game is out. Because I'm not one of those people that follows everything in gaming. So I like having those kind of stuff. But I like this update. I think it's cool. I really like the highlighting stuff. I know some people freaked out with the neon highlighting effect, but I like it.
I like it too. I do like it.
I think it looks cool. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with this update, but we'll see.
It is funny that the Xbox update this year has more fluent design than the Windows 10 update does.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny.
Xbox always one step ahead.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and I guess we'll just do this one quickly. I did a quick editorial about Groove and why I use it. I think it's an interesting discussion. I write this as if a position of an old. Yeah, this was about a year ago. I just had MP3s everywhere across multiple computers and folders and buried, unorganized. I had a closet full of CDs and cracked cases that were never ripped. And I decided one day I was bored, and at the same time I was ambitious, and I just sat there and decided to organize my entire MP3 collection, put it all into one spot, rip my CDs and just get it all there. And then I put it all into a backup drive, and I was like, great. Of course, then I immediately thought, like, what if I lost that drive or it broke? And I've had this happen before. And then I remember there was something with OneDrive, you put your music on there, and I had the 1 terabyte thing because I subscribed to Office 365 Home. And at the time, back in the glorious days, I had Verizon Fios internet, so my internet upload was amazing. Today, it's awful. Thank you, Charter Cable. So I uploaded 20 gigabytes of music to OneDrive. And that felt better because it's like, okay, now it's stored there. If I lose this hard drive, it's fine. But then what was really cool was the fact that Groove ties into your OneDrive. It sees this music folder and it goes, oh, here's all your music. And that's where all my music is now today. And what I really like about this is because Windows 10 Mobile, we know, is not a thing really anymore. No, it's not to say if you're still using it, Godspeed. And I still use it. I have my Idle 4S here on my T-Mobile account, which still works. But when I pick up like an Android phone or I try a new iPhone, it's super cool to be able to download Groove, log in, and it goes, oh, here's your 20 gigabytes of music, all available. And I can just long press on it and go save to offline and just download all my stuff. It's super simple. And being able to do that has just been really, really liberating. I can go to any device now and just, bam, 20 gigs of my music is everywhere. It's on my Xbox. It's on any Windows 10 PC I have, which we all know I have a lot. It's on any phone I have. And if I even have that, I can go to a web browser and just stream it and look at it there. And to me, that's the selling point. Now, I say this jokingly before as an old because I realize younger people don't typically buy albums anymore, nor do they have CDs or the problem of ripping stuff or this weird problem I have of trying to save 20 or 30 gigs of music. They focus on dynamic playlists, which is why they all go to Spotify. And I totally get that. So I'm not saying this is a killer feature for me. This is why I use it, because Spotify and those other services don't really do that. I think Google does, but then Google doesn't. Their music doesn't work well with Windows 10. I don't know how it even play it. It gets through the browser. And it doesn't work on Windows 10 Mobile at all, of course, too. So, or my Xbox. And so, but I really like Groove. I mean, the app is the same across device. Now, the Windows 10 Mobile version actually has some better features, I would say, than the iOS and the Android version, right? You can do videos. It does the better lock screen stuff. But they're still really good apps. They're very familiar. I love the fact I can just go downstairs to my Xbox, turn on, launch Groove. There's 20 gigs of music. It'll play my videos, and I'll get that same visual experience. And so that's the reason why I use it. I think it's pretty awesome. I realize I think they've addressed the playlist thing. They're getting really good with that. I think there's room there for improvement. I would like to see more liking of my music, that kind of thing. The one thing they really need to do, and I keep constantly hearing, of course, for people is it needs a Groove family plan. And I agree 100%. We've talked about it before. We've seen internal documentation referring to it. They're referring to the fact that they need to have that happen before they go forward with Home Hub stuff. So they're clearly aware of it. But I do agree and hope that they come out with the family plan stuff and so more people can get on board with it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you use, Zach? Do you use Groove?
I use Groove as well, yeah. I mean, I've been using Groove or whatever it's been called over the years for a long time. I was using I think I had Zune, and then I also had the Xbox when it turned into Xbox Music and Xbox Video. I was using that, and I like it. It's very nice. I do. The one thing that does annoy me about the Groove stuff is I have a lot of devices and I switch between devices a lot. And if you download music onto one of your devices,
right, with the Music Pass,
it connects that to your Microsoft account and says, hey, you can have only up to 10 of these, which is actually funny because news came out today as well that Microsoft has upped the limit for Windows Store devices from 10 devices to 2,000, which is crazy. And I know Dan's very happy to hear that. But the Groove Music Pass thing hasn't. It's still up to 10. And I don't have 10 devices that are all connected to Groove at any time. The problem is that you can only remove one device every 30 days. And I'm switching devices and downloading music on more devices more often than that. So it builds up, and then I hit the limit, and now I've got to wait 30 days before I can download music onto normal. It's very frustrating.
You used to be able to do 2 devices every 30 days.
Yeah, and they've dropped it down to 1. It is very frustrating. But apart from that, I do love Groove. I love the fluent design elements it has in the app on desktop and on phone, Windows 10 Mobile.
It looks the best. I'm sorry.
It is
out of all the music apps, I think it looks the best. And I don't know why. I tried it. I have an iPhone. I have an iPhone 7 Plus. I have a brand new Android phone. I've seen those apps, and there's a full argument here that can be made that I didn't give them enough chance, or someone didn't show me how to use it. But my immediate reaction was, I don't like this. How do I do this? Oh, I can't connect it to my OneDrive. To me, some of the things I took for granted in Groove, I couldn't do in those. I was just like, screw it, I'll just install Groove. So, yeah. I mean, there's something someone pointed out with Zune how you could do, there was achievements and stuff. I agree. There's absolutely no reason. This is always a big, stupid thing that with Microsoft, their achievement system for Xbox should go across consumer devices. I mean, at least the Insider team gets it, right? Now, I would say the Insider team should probably put more achievements in theirs, but at least I like getting little achievements. They're silly. And they had it in Zune, so they should bring it back to Groove. It's a killer feature in Fitbit. I just received my Africa badge. I've walked 5,000 miles with Fitbit.
Wow.
Yeah, this stuff is cool though. I mean, those little things they're delightful moments, and they don't seem like they you're going to need 150 developers to make that happen, right? So there are a lot of these little things that can make it better. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Groove.
I mean, they are working on some little things. We already know that Microsoft are working on bringing visualization stuff back to Groove, which is very nice. I've actually had a chance to play with that, and it's pretty exciting. So Groove is definitely the best music service in the world. I don't care what anyone else says. I win.
Yeah, I mean, and this is with the kids. The young people, they get locked in with the Spotify playlist, and I'll be fully honest, I have no idea what with that. I don't really do. I even use Groove playlists on occasion, but I'm not a huge playlist person. So I'm going to take people at their word for it. Spotify is amazing there, but it's not a feature that I'm particularly interested in. I'm still listening to music from 15 years ago. But and also quickly, let's tie into this. Microsoft TV and movies and TV had a breakup with Disney for some odd reason. So this is a crazy thing. People who are into Disney tend to have children. And I don't have that. So I'm not into the whole Disney thing. But man, families that have Disney stuff, they're really into it. So Disney has this service called Disney Movies Anywhere. And it's a DRM for your DRM. So what that means is the problem we have with digital movies today is you can buy one on Amazon. You can buy one on Vudu. You can buy one on Verizon Fios. You can buy one on Microsoft Movies and TV. You can buy one from Apple. The question is, how do you get all those movies into one place that are safe? And Disney was like, we'll create a digital locker thing where I think this is how it works. It's if you buy a movie on Xbox or your Microsoft Movies and TV, we connect your account, we see that movie, and we basically double it into our own system, and it'll stay there forever. And I get the appeal for that. Now, it's still DRM'd there, so you can't just do whatever you want with it. They still apparently control how many devices it goes to and all that nonsense. But people who have that service really like it. For some reason, Disney sent out emails yesterday saying to people that we have disconnected from Microsoft Movies and TV. Your current stuff that is already in our vault is going to stay there forever. Don't worry about it. You can, however, add new stuff. So when Infinity War comes out from Marvel next year, you won't be able to add that. Why that is, we do not know. It sounds like I've heard various things. I heard one, Microsoft now requires 2FA for their authentication systems. And if you want to tap into Microsoft account, you need to support that. And Disney doesn't. Totally plausible. It would also be on that night that Equifax got hacked and what's considered to be one of the world's largest cyber attacks. So totally plausible. I've also heard, Disney also recently broke up with Netflix, pulling their stuff. Disney seems to be going down the path of like what CBS is doing, which is saying we're going to consolidate and just do the streaming stuff ourselves, and we don't need partners. And Microsoft might have been the first casualty in that, or I should say maybe the second casualty. We don't really know. Microsoft hasn't said anything about it. We'll have to kind of wait and see. A lot of people are upset about it, understandably. And the question is this a Microsoft only thing? Will this happen with other, services that type into Disney movies anywhere? I don't know. But this is this is an issue with DRM and buying digital stuff. I know a lot of people who don't buy stuff for movies and TV from Microsoft because they're like, they're unsure in 5 years if that stuff's still going to be there. And that's, a legit, especially with Microsoft, that's a legit concern.
And let's be honest, it's Microsoft's fault that people have that idea in their mind. Let's be honest, as Microsoft doesn't treat their consumer market very well. And I am the same. I do buy my movies and TV on Microsoft service. And every time I press buy, I'm like, I might not have this in 5 years. It might not be around. And to be fair, I feel the same about Groove Music. Although Groove Music is great in every way, shape, and form, I'm always worried that Microsoft's just going to wake up one day and say, we're not going to do this no more because no one uses it.
Yeah, and we talked about it before. They don't advertise. They don't. There's not even a Groove Twitter account. There's no marketing, and it's a shame because it's like I got that early on. You wanted to build up, but it's like I kind of feel like they're good enough now that you can start pushing this stuff. And it's like, are you seriously into this? But then like a new Groove update will come out and be like, oh God, this is so good. Like they're clearly focused on it. So it is confusing. Microsoft should hire me. No, they shouldn't. I don't know if I'd work for Microsoft, but they should hire someone like me who could speak to these matters internally and be like, this is what you guys need to do. You don't really quite understand your own audience and their fears. We'll see with the movies and TV stuff. I did recently buy the Quentin Tarantino collection, which was amazing. 5 movies for $14.99. It's hard to pass up. They do have really good sales going on all the time. So
it's because no one buys them and they can afford the cut.
No, that's not true. It's funny though. I do buy it for the sole reason that it's on my TV now through Xbox. It's on my PC.
I'm the same. It's on my phone.
And technically my phone. Although it's weird that movies and TV is not on Android and iOS. But not as a big deal. But I mean, I really enjoy having that integration. But we'll see Microsoft. All right, we're an hour and 20 minutes almost. I say we wrap it up. Are you yawning?
Sorry, that was me. I'm done.
I guess that's the end of the podcast, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening to the streaming later on, we do record Fridays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Mixer.com. We also typically do Thursdays with Microsoft Gaming Libations, but with all the travel everybody's been doing lately, we've had to postpone that. I'm super stoked, though, because we're going to hopefully do it again this week. Oh, actually, I'm in New York City next week. I don't think I'll be able to do it, but I'll be doing something with Xbox there. But
we're going to play Destiny at some point.
Yeah, we're going to play Destiny, too. I've been telling Jez we should just do a stream of it off night. But anyway, tune in Thursdays. We typically do that. We're going to do live questions and comments now. Like I said, join us on Fridays for that. We won't be part of the recorded podcast. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Leave us a comment below. And thanks for everybody joining us. We'll see you guys next time.